Greetings, film fans. John Campy here, and I'm joined by the indomitable George Roush, Associate Editor of AMC Movie News. And big news came out this past weekend over the Christmas holidays if you are a comic book fan. Now, of course, this was a fantastic year for comic book movies. Some good comic book movies, some not so good ones, but a few really great ones. X-Men First Class, Captain America. Personally, my favorite of the bunch was Thor, directed by Kenneth Branagh. Now, it was announced some time ago that Kenneth Branagh would not be returning to direct Thor 2. Now, initially they came out and said Patty Jenkins was going to direct the film. A short while ago, that was announced that she and the studio parted ways over creative differences. There were some rumors that actress Natalie Portman was not very happy with that because she was instrumental in bringing Katie on board. But now reports are coming out that it looks like Thor 2 may, in fact, have a brand new director, and that director is Alan Taylor, who is primarily known for his television work on shows right now like Game of Thrones, The Sopranos, Rome, Big Love, Lost, Boardwalk Empire, Deadwood, Sex and the City, The West Wing, on and on and on. So, George, right now you hear this news. What are your first impressions of this when you hear about Alan taking over, potentially taking over Thor 2?
I actually think it's a good decision. I mean, the guy's worked in so many different genres. He's a very experienced director. It doesn't matter that it's television. I mean, a lot of directors cross between film and TV. So I don't really think it's sort of a controversial decision. I actually think it's a great decision, and Game of Thrones has been so popular that I actually think this will help the sequel. I'm not sure what the creative differences were between Patty and Marvel, but I'm just glad to see that they've worked things out and they're able to get this production going, so it makes its, I believe, 2013 date.
You know, here's the thing that I really like about this, and I personally, I love this news. Now, Alan's wasn't a name that I would have picked out of a hat if you asked me who might be directing Thor 2, but here's the reason I really like it. I really like it for the same reason that I liked Kenneth Branagh's choice for directing the first Thor. These comic book movies, which I love so dearly, the sci-fi action-adventure element of them kind of basically write themselves because inherently that's what they are. It doesn't mean they're done right, but they're there. What Kenneth Branagh brought to Thor were deeper thematic elements that you don't see in a lot of comic book movies. You know, Thor was essentially about fathers and sons and stories of redemption, and it's like a great ingredient in a good meal. Sometimes the person who's eating it doesn't realize why it tastes so good. They just know it tastes really good, and the chef knows what he put in it. And I feel like that's what Kenneth Branagh brought to Thor. And when you look down the shows that Alan has done, like Rome, like The Sopranos, which he won an Emmy for, like Deadwood, and especially a show like Game of Thrones, he's got that experience. He brings those deeper thematic elements. He's got the drama experience. And when like you mentioned, George, when you talk about Game of Thrones, he's got experience merging those elements of sci-fi and fantasy with the dramatic, and just overall, I think this is terrific news. How do you think the general, I mean, this Alan's a guy that not a lot of people have heard of so far. Do you think the general fan audience out there is going to be warm to this announcement, or do you think there's going to be some backlash over it?
No, I think actually this is going to be really well received. Kenneth Branagh was a good choice for Thor because he was able to introduce the characters. He's a great actor's director. I think Alan Taylor will be able to expand upon the scope of the sequel now. Now we've got a guy that's experienced in doing fantasy television. I think he'll be able to do, you know, because Marvel's going to want to go, of course, a bigger scope with the sequel,
right,
like they do with everything else. Now that the introductions are over to the characters, so I think it's a great choice. I think fans are going to love it. I think Game of Thrones is a huge hit with the pop culture community, especially how well received it's been at places like Comic-Con and WonderCon. So I think this is a great decision by Marvel, and I'm really anxious to see what they do with the sequel.
Well, listen, film fans, let us know what you think of the decision or the potential decision to make Alan Taylor the director of Thor 2. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and, of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks a lot for joining us, and until next time, bye-bye.
Goodbye.